All right, thanks again everyone for joining. We appreciate any time you all can be on the call. It looks like we've got almost 60 people on today. We know it's a very busy time of the year, so again, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Real quick, we just want to go around the table here at the Coalition to introduce everyone, to let you know who's on with you. My name is Scott Stevenson. I'm the Quality Initiatives Director.
I'm Marcelle Easter, the Business Information Director.
I'm Elizabeth Deola, the Chief Program Officer.
I'm Javora Gartner from Provider Relations. Mary Brewster, Provider Relations. Latricia Sims, Chief Operations Officer.
Sienna McFarlane, Infant, Toddler, and Inclusion Specialist.
And Roseanne Briggs, I have the pleasure of serving as your CEO here at the Coalition. We thank everybody for being on the line today, and a special hello and thank you for being here to Miss Annie Richardson.
Hi, Annie.
All right, so we've got a pretty full agenda today. We'll go ahead and jump right into it. Like last time, we have a special guest speaker today. Danielle Liso is joining us from the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. So she's going to tell you a little bit more about who they are and the services that they offer. And give us just a moment and we'll turn it over. I think you're all set, Danielle.
All right, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Well, my name is Danielle Liso, and I'm very happy to be here today to spend a few minutes with you talking about CARD services and how they might benefit you as an agency as well as the individuals that you serve. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. This is going to be a kind of a brief introduction to CARD services, but we're always welcome to reach out and ask specific questions and get specific resources and supports. So CARD is the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. The state of Florida is the only state in the country that has such a program. It's made up of 7 centers across the state. So no matter where you live in the state of Florida, there's a CARD center that serves your area. I work for the CARD center that's known as UF CARD Gainesville. We say that specifically because there's also a UF CARD Jacksonville. UF CARD Gainesville, where I work, serves 14 counties in the surrounding region. CARD is funded through the Department of Education in the state of Florida, and all services to agencies and individuals are free of charge. So CARD stands for Autism and Related Disabilities, and so it's important to take a minute to talk about what that means. A person of any age, so cradle to grave is what they like to say, we will serve. And they fall into some specific categories. Because we are funded through a special project through the Department of Education, we have to be very clear about who it is that we are able to serve. So anyone with an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, which includes anyone who might be grandfathered in with an older diagnosis such as Asperger's syndrome or PDD, any of those things that you may hear. We also serve any individual with a developmental disability through the age of 5. So as you may be aware, when a child turns 6, they no longer qualify for a developmental disability label. They either get no label at all, or that disability label switches to something like autism. So a child who's through the age of 5, so up until age 6, qualifies for our services under the developmental disability category. Then we have this related disabilities part, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing, but really it just falls into 3 categories. We have a person who has what we call a dual sensory impairment, which basically means that they have both hearing and vision impairment. But we also serve people who have a hearing impairment with another disabling condition. It might be an intellectual disability, for example, or a vision impairment with another disabling condition. So that's my way of saying we try to serve as many people as we can under one of those categories, but those are the categories that we are funded to serve. So here are the 7 CARD centers. You can see by looking at this list that all of the CARD centers are based out of a university program. Our CARD center is based out of our psychiatry department. However, some of the other CARD centers may be based out of the special education or education department, psychology. One of them is even based out of the speech and language department at the school, but they're all linked to a university. And so here is what the state regions look like. So the University of Florida, Gainesville, which is where I work, we serve these 14 counties. And of course, Marion County is one of the counties that we serve. But you can see that the state is divided up, and a card center serves all 67 counties in our state. Here are the counties that we serve at UF Gainesville. You can see we go all the way down to Hernando and all the way up to Hamilton and Suwannee County, with Marion and Alachua being the two counties that we have probably the most number of constituents. So part of our job at CARD is to identify as many people with autism as we can, so that we can make the state aware of the need for autism supports. And a lot of the constituents that we work with are from Alachua and Marion specifically. So what does CARD do? We provide a number of different services, and I'm going to briefly talk about what those are. The first is training. So this is something that might benefit you as an agency or organization. So we do training by request, which basically means that if you as an agency have an interest in anything related to autism, whether it's related to school and support services or early intervention or IEPs and learning plans or behavior, communication, any of those things, we can provide a training. You can go online to our website, which I'm going to show you at the end, and just put in a request. And you can request for a whole agency to be trained. You can request for a certain smaller group of people to be trained on a certain topic. Pre-COVID days, we offered much of our training in person. We would come to you and we would come wherever you wanted us to come, and we would meet with everyone. At the moment, we're doing all of our trainings online. When we go back to post-COVID days, I guess, we will continue to provide online, both synchronous and asynchronous instruction, as well as going back to in-person. And sometimes we're also able to offer continuing education credits. If you go to our website, in addition to requesting a live training with somebody like myself, you can also request that you look up and participate in trainings that we have online that have been pre-recorded that are about popular topics. We provide technical assistance. Technical assistance basically means that we can provide help to the agency directly. So an agency, such as a school or organization, can call us up and say, we have a student or several students in our class that need support from CARD, and we'll come in and do observations, give recommendations. We can help with the development of behavior plans. We often attend meetings, school meetings, for example. And so in addition to the school or agency making that request, a parent can also make that request. A parent can contact us and say, my child needs help at school. Can you go into the school and help? We also do something called individual assistance. Individual assistance, again, is for any person of any age that fall into those diagnostic categories, and we provide help to them in home or community. So it could be that they need help with behavior strategies at home. It could be that they need help with communication strategies at home, or successfully doing trips into the community, for example. We even do things like helping people get and keep a job, because again, we work with adults as well. And some of the common things that we work on are things like behavior, communication, social self-care and independent living skills, as well as social skills and employment. A couple of other things that we have that are very easy to take advantage of. We have a database. So let's say that a parent needs a dentist who is familiar with autism and who takes patients with autism. We have a database for that. And they can call and say, I live in Marion County. I'm willing to travel 20 miles from my home. Can you send me a list of providers who fit those criteria? We also have support to families who need help completing forms like Social Security and disability. We have a lending library, so people can either come into our office or call and request, and we can send them reading materials to borrow, just like you would at the regular public library. And then we also have a visual supports lab. People with autism often benefit from having information presented to them in a visual format. And so we can, free of charge, create visuals for a person at home, a person in school, any place really that the individual goes, and we'll make them individualized to that person. Another thing that we do is called public education. Part of our mission at CARD is to make sure that the community at large understands autism and is aware of autism, understands what services are available for people with autism, and how to gain access to those services. So when there are tabling events in the community, for example, that might be in a situation, thank you, that might be a situation in which we might be present at such an event where we can answer people's questions about autism, give them information about supports in the community. Another thing we do that might be of interest to you, especially since you often work with young kids, is screening. Screening is something that we do to allow families to make a educated decision about next steps for their child. So let's say that the teacher, for example, tells the parent, I have some concerns about autism. If the parent is not ready to just simply pursue an autism full diagnostic evaluation, they can come to us for a free screening, and we can do some initial assessments to determine whether or not a full evaluation for autism is warranted. If it's not warranted, we will also then make recommendations like, you should have your child's hearing and vision screened, or you should have your child assessed for a learning disability, that kind of thing. But it is not a diagnosis. It's just a free screening opportunity for families who are kind of not sure they want to pursue a diagnosis. CARD staff members are made up of people of a variety of disciplines. Our backgrounds include special education, speech pathology, psychology, and behavior analysis. And then we also have people called parent partners, and they often get involved with things like helping parents fill out forms for Social Security and disability. These are parents who have a child with autism who have kind of been through the paces already and can kind of give some support to the people that we serve. We also offer support groups. We have a yearly conference that's available to anyone who has an interest in autism. In fact, it's in January every year, so it's coming up soon. This year it will be virtual, but most of the time it's in person. It happens every year in January over Martin Luther King Day weekend. We also have fundraisers. So because CARD is funded through the Department of Education, we're kind of given a flat amount of money to survive on for the year. And so sometimes people in the community will reach out to us and say, I'd love to do a fundraiser and raise some money for CARD. And so we ourselves can't do a fundraiser, but other people can do fundraisers for us, and we appreciate it. So now I'm just going to take a moment to, and I only have a few more moments left, so I want to just take a moment to show you our website. And of course it worked when we practiced it. There we go. So here's our website. Can somebody let me know if you can see that on the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. So this is our website for UF Card at Gainesville. And as you can see across the top, we have information about autism. We have information about the CARD staff. If you stumble upon our website and you are not part of our constituency area, you can find your card here. If you click on this link, it shows all of our upcoming events. We have a lot of support groups. We do a lot of trainings for parents and professionals. All of these things are free of charge. We have forums like housing forums. We do a monthly Tuesday night training on different topics. We have support groups not only for family members, but also people with disabilities themselves. We have social skills groups. We have a lot of stuff going on. And this is the other one I wanted to draw your attention to. So if you hover over resources here, you can see that there are a lot of different opportunities to learn. So as I mentioned, these are all different opportunities for you to watch at your own pace, pre-recorded videos, and sometimes even get professional development credit for them. But if you have an interest in certain topics, we have topics like behavior, we have topics like communication and social skills, IEPs, lots of different things. And then if you are interested in requesting help from us, you would click on request from schools to request an observation in your school, or you would click on training, and that's again to request a training on any topic that you might be interested in. So if I click on this training form, it shows some of the most commonly requested topics. So you can click on some of these, or you can write in something at the bottom, something else that you'd like to learn about. But these are some of the most common topics: early intervention, social skills, visual and environmental supports, toilet training. Those are the kinds of things that we often do trainings on. And this, lastly, is how you reach us. So the best way to reach us, of course, is through our website. You can email us that way. You can get individual emails for different staff members, but certainly you're also welcome to call us. So I'm keeping an eye on the time, and I want to make sure that I stop in my allotted period. But I want to welcome you to contact us at any time. If you have a child of concern, if you have a family who would benefit from our services, if you would like further training on autism and related disabilities, those are all things we are more than happy to provide.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for that. Were you going to make the PowerPoint available to those listening in?
I can absolutely do that. Shall I send it to you by email and you can share it with everyone?
Absolutely. Yes. If you do that, I'll make sure if anybody requests it, that I'll send it their way.
I'd be happy to do that. I'll do that right now.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions in there for Danielle for the presentation?
Not that she hasn't answered yet. Let's
Okay.
see.
So I guess, Danielle, there were a couple questions, but throughout the course of your presentation, you answered some of those
Mhm.
questions.
And we got a thank
Oh,
you.
okay.
Information. Very thankful to discover this resource.
Providers are asking for a copy of the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay.
I will make sure to send that to you right away. And feel free to reach out. In fact, in the chat box, I'll go ahead and put my email address. And then that way you can reach out to me directly if you like. And I can go into further detail about any of these things.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you again, Danielle. We appreciate it and all the information you shared.
It's my pleasure, and thanks for all you guys do. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays
Thank
to
for
you.
being
Thank
here.
you.
Bye-bye.
So next on our agenda, moving right along, we have our partner updates. So if there's a partner of ours on the line right now and you'd like to give us an update, please let us know and we'll take you off mute
Just raise your hand.
or just raise your hand. Okay, nobody right now. So if later during the course of this call, if somebody would like to give us an update, just raise your hand and we can take you off mute and let you speak.
And Avita just let us know that DCF has no updates at this time. So thank you, Avita.
Great. Okay, so going on to number 3 on our agenda for provider updates. Marcy is here and she's going to talk to you about the next 2 agenda items.
Okay, so the next 2 agenda items is, the first piece is reimbursement contract requirements. So these are basically just reminders that in regards to your reimbursement, I'm sorry, I'm trying to clear my screen while I'm talking as well, so I can see what I'm telling you here. So I took basically some of the requirements out of your contract that wraps around your reimbursement time. So I'll go through them. There's not very many of them, so we'll go through them real quick. Paragraph 22 about sign in and out process. So you'll see I copied it directly from the contract, and underneath in red, I've kind of just summarized it for you. The sign in and out process, the coalition requests these to be uploaded to Blue Jeans portal the first 3 business days of the month when submitting attendance. What we are finding out is we're having to send a lot of emails and contact a lot of providers during reimbursement. What happens is this slows that process down. We want to pay you on time. We want to pay you on time. So we really need you to submit, scan and submit those sign in and out sheets up to Blue Jeans within the first 3 business days of the month. The next piece is paragraph 23 of your contract, child absences. You have agreed to notify the coalition in writing if a child is enrolled in your site and is consecutively for 5 days absence with no contact from the parent, you need to notify us. So I put on here, an email must be sent to sr@elc-marion.org to notify the coalition of any absences for 5 consecutive days with no contact from parent. So if you were not sure who to contact for those absences, the SR group email is the way to go, because that will get that information over to our family service department, and they will be able to reach out to the families and see what next steps need to happen. Please, Latricia, if I haven't covered enough, let me know. Paragraph 57 is attendance documentation. Your attendance submission through the EFS Mod provider portal must be submitted by the 3rd business day. Records that are submitted late will be processed and paid in the next payment cycle. We do understand there are sometimes technical difficulties. We have requested in those first 3 days that you make sure you send us an email in regards to that. If we don't know you're having technical difficulty and you don't submit it by the 3rd day, we will have to pay that on the next payment cycle. I do see some questions coming in, so we'll get to those when I finish this one. Paragraph 58, reimbursement summary review. You have 60 days of transmission of the reimbursement summary. The reimbursement summary is available approximately the 11th of the month. That's the approximate day, somewhere between the 10th and the 12th, so I split it in half. We close out all of your attendance. As soon as we close that out, it is available for you to look at. If you don't know how to access it, go onto our website. That we have already done 1 or 2, I can't quite remember, since August, training on how to access those reimbursement reports and how to read them. All of these how-to procedures or guides that we have created and have had these trainings on your provider meetings have been emailed out to you and have been uploaded to your provider resource area on the website. So with that, once you review, you have 60 days to review those and let us know if you believe that there's any adjustments that may need to be made. What I am finding, and my team is finding, is the 1st of the month, we are bombarded with adjustment requests or research requests on children or reviews from your reimbursement report. Those emails that are coming in are going to be processed, researched and processed after we close out reimbursement. Once again, our main concern the first 10 days of the month is to get you paid on time. So we are having to kind of shift our priorities, and we want to make and communicate this out clearly, that if you don't have a response in that first week after sending a request for us to research a child or find out why something wasn't paid when you thought it should have been on the reimbursement reports, that takes research and time. So those are going to happen the last half of the month. Any questions so far on this piece?
So we have a question that just asks if this document will be sent to everybody. We will include it with the follow-up email out to everyone. And we can probably post this on the website too,
Yes.
under our, where your help documents are.
It's going to go in the resource area. I will also be adding the VPK portion of the contract onto there as well.
Yay, I love it.
Okay, so we're done with that one. Got one more training for you. I try to get these in as they come out. So some of the providers have realized in the last update from the state that you can now request your temporary closures yourself through the portal. We did not release this back in November to do a training, mainly because of when it was released and the holidays and those pieces. We took care of all of it last month, and now we are moving it over into your hands. So, quick guide to request a temporary closure. From your portal provider dashboard, you're going to click on the attendance tab, 1A. From there, you're going to go down to the bottom where it says temporary closures, and you will click right there on the temporary closure. Number 3, add your temporary closure. Number 4, click on the answer that best describes your site closure. Yes, the whole site was closed. There was no children at the site. We had to close a VPK program or only our SR program. So VPK stayed, but SR wasn't open. SR stayed, but our VPK classes were closed. That's basically those pieces. Please be aware when your VPK program closes, you still have to follow the accumulated 5 days of closure. Anything over an accumulation of 5 days, you must go and change your VPK app to make up those VPK hours. Okay, 5, you're gonna click on the caret, that's this little arrow right here on the side, and select the site, or if you're multi-sites and it affects multiple sites, you can select all of those sites at once to handle the closure. The closure details section on number 6. These are very important here. This is, and even in some of the emails Elizabeth receives, this is the biggest area that is of confusion. So your closed from date is the first day your site is closed. Your closed to date is the last day of your closure. If the site was only closed for 1 day, your closed from and your closed to are going to show the same exact day. Your anticipated reopen date is going to be the first day you are open. This is highly important that you get these dates right, because this is what's going to change your attendance to possibly be paid for those days or not. So if you do not put your correct dates here, you potentially have the chance of not being able to select those days on your attendance sheets when you go to process attendance. And then we have to go through the whole process of rejecting attendance and fixing and all of those pieces. So make sure if you have any questions, you pull this out, this document out again, and follow this area here. The next is the closure reasons. These closure reasons are important for multiple different things. Part of it is it's reporting to the state to say why are our providers closed? What kind of information that they need to do? Do they, I'm trying to think, Roseanne, even the legislatures look at and question why providers have been closed and pieces of that, especially right now with COVID going on.
Because they are businesses.
Correct, because you are businesses on there.
And we also track trends that way. So when everybody was closing for Tropical Storm Hurricane Eta that came through, you know, that's a trend, and the COVID closures are a trend. And there's actually, it goes even deeper than that, where we have to report to the Office of Early Learning on a weekly basis now anybody that closed, even if you only closed a classroom for a day to sanitize, we have to report the purpose behind it. So if it's because a teacher got COVID, they want to know, we want to know, because it's, again, it's developing that trend. If we're seeing a bunch of teachers come down testing positive for COVID, that's going to show something in our community. If it's children testing positive for COVID, that sends another message in our community. So all of these data points are tracked so that we can basically provide the most accurate, detailed information to any stakeholders, basically, that then they can start making informed decisions too. So it's important that we have that info.
So the selections right now is exposure to COVID. You're scheduling a deep cleaning due to COVID. You're closed because lack of child attendance. You're closed lack of staff availability. This E and F are the two biggest ones I'm going to state last month for providers that did submit and try this out themselves. I'm going to have to say that this is where I think some of the providers got a little confused. Some of them hit other. The tropical storm Hurricane Eta should have been selected as E, declared state of emergency other than COVID. This is the example of this is hurricane related weather. Basically, if the state says this county is in this state of emergency, then you are going to click E. F for other is example of a payable closure is property damage that can cause health and safety concerns, death of immediate family member. Those are just a couple of examples with that reason of what other would cover.
Of course, that is a very broad term. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Documentation. Click the upload button. This will allow you to browse your computer to select the document that you need to upload. Everybody should know how to upload documents. You do it on Blue Jeans every month. 9 is type in your comments to explain the details of the closure. When this gets submitted to us, we have to then take a look at this and either determine that this is a closure that is not going to be reimbursed or a closure that is going to be reimbursed. Just because you request the temporary closure does not mean this will be a reimbursable day. The more information you give us in those comments, that gives us more information to be able to make that decision. So definitely make sure you're putting in comments in number 9. Click submit to coalition when you are complete. If you are not complete and you need to just take a look or you need to get your document in there, if you click save, this will not submit it to the coalition, but it will allow you to save what you have put in there for you to go back and complete it. Please remember, saving does not submit. Once you hit submit, you're going to have your lovely sign and certify. You're going to type your full name as it shows on the portal and then click submit. This is the information right here up at the top. By signing this form, I certify that your temporary closure was due to circumstances as described above, and the information is provided true and correct. I understand the coalition will determine reimbursement eligibility based on 6M 8.204, Uniform Guidance, and VPK Program 6M 4.501, Reimbursement during Emergency Closure for SR Program. I understand that child attendance records will not be collected for the closure days, and I understand the VPK provider application classroom calendars must be modified to restore instructional hours in excess of the allotted emergency closure days. So you are certifying all of this information when you submit this to us. It's not a real hard process, but we just want to make sure that the details are coming through to us. I have also included on the last page of this, those uniform attendance policies for SR and VPK, and highlighted in red some of those key areas that you need to look at. The coalition may consider reimbursement, depending on providers when closure is beyond the control of a provider. The declaration of state of emergency, closure of public schools in the area which the provider is located. These are some of the pieces for SR. And once again, on the VPK, some of the same pieces that are stated above, but includes that combined total of 5 instructional days and what happens after that. Anybody have any questions?
No questions. You did a fantastic job. Thank you for putting that together. So we will get that out to you so that you can see it to refer back to. That'll be in our follow-up email, and it'll be in the resources page on our website. And I'm just looking to see if we have any additional questions. So far, no. So we can keep moving on our agenda, I think. And Scott, are you
Okay.
good with me just going on?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Hi, everybody. This is Elizabeth. I know you can't tell. I wanted to talk to you all really quickly about our ASQ process. Back in November, we issued a bulletin on Blue Jean that talked about the importance of reviewing your ages and stages timelines, and Sienna sends a message, uploads a message to you in Blue Jean when new enrollments come into the coalition for school readiness. If they are between the ages of birth at 6 weeks and 5 years old, you will receive a notice that gives you basically a 30-day notice that says you have until this date to complete your ages and stages questionnaire on a specific child. I wanted to give a little bit of clarification because we did send a blanket notice out because we are reviewing and monitoring this process very closely. And we have seen that there are some providers that are not meeting their deadlines. This is a contractual requirement and we do have to follow up on it. So we submitted first the blanket message out to everybody that says, check this, check this, check this. It's really important. I will be issuing another clarifying statement that basically says not everybody is out of compliance. So I apologize that I overlooked that paragraph in the paper, in the document. We are in the process of reviewing every provider though. So we want to make sure we're working with you to understand how the ages and stages system works with ASQ Online. And we want to make sure that you have a good understanding of when these things are due and the purpose. So it's not just because it's a contractual requirement that we're screening these children. These children that are in the school readiness program are some of the most vulnerable in our population. And we want to make sure that they're on target developmentally and that they're receiving early interventions, just like Danielle mentioned from CARD, getting those services in place as soon as possible, as soon as there is a need established. I almost said the word diagnosed, and we are not doctors, so we don't diagnose anything. But as soon as we see that red flag go up or you're noticing those different behaviors in a child, we really want to address that as soon as possible. In this world that we're living in, the trauma and the stress that we are all under collectively is going to have years and years of repercussions if we don't address them as they come along. So use this, see this as a tool to help you. We are working towards getting EFS Mod, OEL is working towards getting EFS Mod to talk to ASQ Online so that it relieves some of these processes. You still will need to do the actual ASQ screening, but hopefully it'll be a little more automated in how you get your children into the ASQ online system. There's one thing I really did want to clarify, which comes down to the dates that you have to do these screenings by. So if a child is brand new to you, brand new to your center or your home, you have 45 days to complete the ASQ screening and to enter it into ASQ online. So this means that the child needs to be entered into the ASQ online system. In the clarification document that I'm going to send out with the follow-up information, I'll probably ask Scott to send it out, since he's going to send you a whole bunch of stuff like what Marcy just talked about and what Danielle talked about, so you have it. It's going to talk about how you add a child to Brooks. So Brooks and ASQ Online, they're the same thing, as you hear me talk about them interchangeably. That process, that has been from day one, the responsibility of the provider since we have moved over to the providers doing ASQ. As Sienna is able and as our staff are able, we will enter children, or if you are finding that it is extremely a hardship for you to put these kids into the ASQ online system, please just say something, because if we don't know that you're having a challenge, we can't help you with the challenge. We understand that this is a lot. There's a lot that goes into this, and this is a very important process so that we can make sure we identify these kiddos early. So just to summarize that, I will be sending out, well, Scott will be sending out an updated document that has some additional information on how you can enter your kids into the ASQ online system. And just to summarize, the initial ASQ is due within 45 days of initial enrollment. If those kids are being redetermined and they're staying at your site, you've had them all year, you can either choose, you can choose one of these two options. You can either screen them in the month of their birthday, or you can follow what Sienna puts in Blue Jean and screen them within that 45 days of the renewal of their services. Either of those will be acceptable by the coalition. The only renewal notice you are going to receive, though, is when Sienna sees that that child has been determined eligible for school readiness. Sienna doesn't necessarily know whether it's a redetermination or a new enrollment. So she's sending you in Blue Jean that 45-day window. So all of those kids, if they are renewing or they're initially enrolling, you're going to have that 45-day window. So I hope that clarifies a little bit. In the follow-up documentation, you will see that is acceptable. So you can do them at either one of those intervals, because we can see, with additional research, we can see if the child was redetermined or if they were a new enrollment, to show your justification as to why you chose to do the screening within one date or another. I'm going to pause because I just gave you a lot of information. See if there's any questions. And while I'm looking for questions, I also want to say thank you, because a lot of you responded right away. Some of you had questions going, I don't get it. I do all of my screenings on time. And you're right, you do. And we thank you for that. So we want to be here to assist those of you that are having any challenges or opportunities with that. Okay, no questions with that. So I just want to touch base on the first responder and just give you a couple of reminders about changes that will happen starting in January. If you will recall, there is, we are going back to business as usual. And I say that with air quotes around it, regarding parent fees. So parent fees, you will need to plan to start collecting those effective January 1st for all school readiness children. I'm looking around just to make sure nothing new came out in the past 5 minutes.
Define all school readiness children for the providers.
All school readiness children is any child that's enrolled under the school readiness program, birth through age 13, or once they age out of the program. So that includes every eligibility code, so BG1s, including BG1 ESS. That's going to be something very, very new for the BG1 ESS groups. And I'm going to touch on that in a second about the renewal of those services, and Latricia's in here so she can keep me on track with that. But every child, so all of your parents, your school readiness parents who have really received a lot of help at your site financially, we thank you for supporting this effort and for going through all of this with us. They will return to paying their parent fee plus your differential if you have one, effective January 1st. So you can find your parent fee on the certificate, and parents do have to accept the enrollment in EFS mod in order for you to see the certificate. So if you have some outstanding families that haven't accepted their enrollment, it's going to be really important that you work with them over the next couple of weeks to ensure that you are charging the right amount. So just to, and providers, you also have to accept the enrollments as well. Thank you. One of the team reminded me of that. And I was walking a provider through that the other day. If you're not seeing a child on your attendance roster, it is most likely due to that child not being accepted. And you do have to accept those enrollments every time they renew and anytime they enroll to begin with.
And that how-to guide is on the provider resource page on the website.
Yes.
We have done a training on that one as well.
So just to reiterate that, parent fees start back up January 1st. There is the one-pager handout that is in the handout section of this webinar, and Scott can also include that in the follow-up just so that you have it handy again. BG1 ESS, and this is the first responder essential healthcare worker program that we had going on. It's, bear with us, we're pulling up another form for you to look at. That program is coming to an end. We are phasing it out. So what that means is you will need to follow those certificates for referral end dates. We are not renewing any further referrals at this time.
Tell them why.
Because OEL told us not to. I'm looking at her and going, is there a magic word? But the funds, honestly, I mean, you know, you've been with us on this roller coaster journey since March. There's been a lot of CARES funding and a lot of funding given to these programs. That funding has been depleted. So OEL has given us the directive to go ahead and end that program. Which we've been talking about. You know, we haven't accepted any new enrollments since the end of July. So at this point, those parents that are over income, their last day, you're going to want to follow that referral date. On the certificate, their end date is their end date. So if a parent comes to you and tries to sweet talk you into something, that's between you and the parent for sure. Feel free to work with those parents. That is it. Yeah, that's your first. Marcy got it up on the screen for you. Child care, health care workers, and it's a one pager that kind of goes through all of it. Let's see what else with that. If we are able to roll over our parents because they're income eligible for the program, we will do so. So you'll just want to watch those renewal dates. And that, again, you have to accept the enrollment anyway so that you can get them on your attendance roster. So let me pause for a second. Pastor, I see your comment about my ASQ update. You're correct. I am not, that's why we're sending out the update because you're right. What I just said isn't necessarily included on that first form. So we're going to send out the update that gives you options for ASQ completion. Let me go back to first responders. I don't see any questions about that. So I think we've done I think we've talked a lot about this to kind of get you geared up for going back to the typical. The other thing is about absences. So starting January 1st, you are only eligible to claim 3 absences for school readiness children and an additional 7 absences with a note. So let me say that again. So starting January 1st, you will be able to claim 3 absences for your childcare, your school readiness children. And then you can claim up to an additional 7 absences, but it does have to have a note accompanied with it, or we will not be able to reimburse that. The note can be from the family or from a physician or somebody that can justify the reason for the absence. Trish agrees with that. She gave me a thumbs up from across the room. So let me pause and see if there's any questions. I feel like you guys are pretty on top of it. Feel like our providers know what's going on. You guys are in the know.
Okay, so I'm going to add to what you just said with that absence. So that means in January, for January attendance, you will not use the code D due to disaster
No.
or COVID. You will not be using that code anymore. If we see those codes and we are unable to change them, you will have an increase of rejected attendance, which is of course going to slow down the whole process. And potentially, if you don't catch the emails coming through to tell you you have rejected attendance and get them taken care of right away, they will not be paid until the next cycle.
And just to add to that though, you still can claim if you have an emergency closure, you're going to claim that separately. That's not absences, that's an emergency closure.
That's going to go through the temporary closure of what we just went through.
Right. So you would go back to that document that Marcy went over in detail, and that's going to send out later this week probably. And we do not have, oh, we do have a question. Can a payable reason be a parent might think a child has COVID and they have to get tested, and that covers the other 7 absences if they're not here, if the parent writes the note? Yes, as long as you have a note from the parent or a physician or somebody in authority that's confirming the reason for the absence, you can claim those additional 7 absences for that purpose. Yes. Now, I would also just venture to say that if that is the case, you're probably going to be aware and you may end up having a temporary closure at some point anyway. So it's just going to be important to pay attention, because now we're kind of shifting into a different realm that we haven't gone into before. So you're going to have to look at each situation from, you know, just how it happens and kind of look at how you're going to claim it individually.
And I want to reiterate one piece that I probably did not punctuate on this temporary closure. This temporary closure must be completed and approved before attendance is submitted for the month of the closure. But as I was reading in the contract today, I believe, and I'm going to go back in and add that to your contract sheet that we did, you have 2 days to notify us. Prior to the closure, I believe. So I'm going to get that language and put that in there, because this will be part of your communication on your closure for COVID for us that Elizabeth has to submit. But
Yes.
That will be a big piece. This is going to have to be done on a regular basis when your closures are happening. Don't hold it off to the end of the month.
Yes, please. That's huge for me, because I do have to report it to OEL. And sometimes I'm reporting more than once a week now. There was a time where I was reporting it every single day. And now, thankfully, we've moved on to, we went to 3 times a week, then we went to 2 times a week, and now we're to 1 time a week. But I do need to know within that week, at very minimum, if you have a site closure. So you would want to fill that out completely, because I'll be working with Marcy too. We're shifting over here too. Marcy used to depend on me to tell her when you guys were closed, and now she's gonna have to tell me when you're closed so that we can continue to do this. So we do have a couple of questions. Can you please review the December number of allowable absences? So in December, you're allowed 12. So you were allowed 2 extra. You can use the D for disaster for those 12, and you do not have to have any backup documentation for the month of December. Let's see. we had, what if you have a child whose parent is choosing right now not to return due to COVID? Should we go ahead and withdraw the child and then parent needs to recertify? I really believe that is your choice. You can keep them on your attendance roster. We are going to start really reinforcing you reporting excessive absences to us, because if a parent is a school readiness parent, they have those services for a reason. If they're not using them or they're choosing not to use them because of COVID, that is certainly their choice and their right to do so. However, we are clearing the wait list because we still have an abundance of need for services in our community. And we have to, it is our obligation to ensure that the families that are enrolled because they need the services. So if I were in your situation, I would really talk with the parent and find out what is their, if they really are scared of COVID, then that's fine. They don't need the services. You can go ahead and withdraw, because they're really just taking up a seat at your spot where at your site where you can fill it with another child in need.
And be aware, if you have those families, go back to paragraph 23. You must have contact with them every 5 days. So you know what's going on, or you're going to have to report to us that those children are not attending. So basically, January is moving back to business as usual.
What that looks like in our new world here. So is this 3 A's and then 9 D's? No, it is not. Not necessarily. It's, you're going to claim your absences and you're going to continue. You have to have backup documentation. So you're going to choose your purpose with any additional absences. You're going to choose the correct option,
Well,
right?
I think the question that was just asked was for December's attendance. Yes, it would be 3 A's and 9 D's.
I'm sorry, can you clarify if you're talking about January or December? Just so we make sure we answer it correctly.
I was just doing based upon adding up the days there.
She said 9, 10, 11, 12.
December,
So,
yes.
You're right.
Yes, that would be correct. 3 excused absences and then 9 due to disaster.
I need to go back to BBK for my math skills, guys. Okay. I think we have answered everybody's questions. You see any we haven't answered?
No.
Okay. So those were just updates that I wanted to remind you of for the month of January. And then I know we are getting close to, we're over our time now. So we have, I'm just gonna, Scott, can I just go run into this E-Verify really quickly?
Like to, yes.
We do have, on your agenda, you'll see some professional development stuff. I'm kind of skipping it because I just want to confirm it. If you have questions about CPR or the phonological awareness, Lily and Tiffany are our professional development staff. They will be, Scott can include some dates in his follow-up email in case you're interested in training. One very important piece that's coming up, and Marcy was able to pull it up on the screen, is the E-Verify process. E-Verify is an internet-based application that employers use to confirm a newly hired employee is authorized to work within the United States. It is operated through the Department of Homeland Security Citizen and Immigration Services. And this is not, there's no charge for this service, but it is going to be a requirement for all of our school readiness and BPK providers. So as you're signing new contracts starting January 1st, all employers will have to complete the E-Verify process. There is a map that we put, I think it's in the handouts. It's not a map, I'm sorry, it's a calendar that shows you opportunities for training. This memo that's up on your screen right now was sent to everybody, including childcare providers, early learning coalitions, back in November. And it's going to become a very important part of you being able to contract with us. So please make yourself aware of your obligations as a business, as a private employer. This change is coming, so we wanted to really make sure you are aware of it, because we will have to start collecting the affidavits that are going to be required with it. I think that is it. There's the affidavit right there, the Early Learning Coalition. Thank you, Deanna.
Some of you have probably already seen the button in your Documents tab from your profile that shows E-Verify and what that is. That is the piece where this information will be going.
And I just wanted to add, in yesterday's email that I sent everyone, there was a piece in there about E-Verify. And if you look at the body of that email and scroll down a little bit, it'll say, click here for more webinar opportunities. One of those opportunities is right now. Actually, I believe it started at 2 o'clock, but there's also about 4 or 5 other opportunities you can pick prior to January 1st. So we just highly encourage you to look at the email. Oh, there it is. Marcy's got it up. If you scroll down and keep going a little further, right there in the blue where it says click here for other webinar opportunities, that will take you to the schedule that Elizabeth was talking about.
And there's lots of different options there. If you're new to this process, if you're seasoned in this process and you just need a refresher, if you need to learn more about it, there's all sorts of different opportunities. So we encourage you to learn about that, as it is going to come into effect on January 1st.
And when I send out my email, I will be attaching to that the affidavit, because at some point or another, one of our responsibilities as the coalition is to get these from all providers and to maintain records of them. So just keep in mind when you see that, it does need to be notarized. And so the sooner you can do that, the better. Like Elizabeth said, if you already have a 2021 contract with us, we don't need the affidavit. But if you're one of the providers who is just now getting your class observation and we're going to initiate your contract after January 1st, we will need that affidavit. But again, I'll include that in the with the other stuff I'm sending out.
We have one last question. When will we be notified about the most recent grants?
I'm glad someone asked that because there is still time. If you are a provider who's not sent us an application for your phase 4 grant, please send it. Don't delay. It's pretty much free money that doesn't have to be paid back. So again, all of these grants, if you have any questions about your eligibility, if you need the form, let me know, because there is still time during the month of December for you to submit. As far as if you're asking the question regarding payment, if you've sent them to us, they're in the process now of either being processed or they've already been sent to finance. I can't really answer payment questions.
I think they just want to know if they got it or not.
Oh, okay.
When will we be notified about the most recent grants? So they want to know when they will, it seems like they want to know if they got it or not.
If you put your name there in the comments, I'll get back to you and let you know.
Give it to you. All right. Just a reminder that we are moving in January to 1 meeting a month. We thank everybody for your consistent participation in our meetings. We always think that we're not going to have enough on the agenda to cover the entire hour, and then here we are at 5 after 2. So we thank you, thank you, thank you. If this is the last time we talk to you before the holidays, happy holidays. We hope you can find some time to relax and pamper yourself for all that you've done through this continued pandemic, and please stay safe. One last thing, the coalition is working on purchasing additional cleaning materials, including paper towels, hand sanitizer, gloves, which I know is a hot topic for you, and toilet paper. So those things, as we get them in, we will again refer you to talk to Susan when we get them in to let her know. And we still have some masks available. Last but not least, we do have cribs, and I know in Scott's email he said if you didn't get a crib, we have already distributed to everybody who wanted one before or did the success story. So now we are ready to finish distribution. We do have some cribs left. So on a first come, first served basis, centers and childcare homes, as long as you are serving infants, are eligible for up to 2 additional cribs while supplies last. And I know that since this email went out, we've already given out probably 15 or 20 of them, and there's very few left. So stake your claim now. Anything else for the good of the cause? No?
No.
Well, happy holidays, everybody. Stay warm. It's going to get cold again this week. So,
Happy holidays. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
yes. Bye, everybody.